guess it's time to get to this story right here. It's the one you've all been waiting for. The reveal of the Walt Disney audio animatronic figure. Disneyland unveils the first Walt Disney animatronic figure. This by Marvin, Montenaro, July 14th, 2025. Scheduled for inclusion in a new show at Disneyland Park in Anaheim, California. The figure incorporates technology that Walt Disney helped develop in the 1960s for attractions such as Great Moments, Mr. Lincoln. Disney Imagineers have described the animatronic's movements, including eye contact, facial expressions, hand gestures, and posture shifts, as an advancement in their capabilities. It relies on archival audio for Walt Disney's voice to present information about his life, work, and plans for Disneyland. Parks posted a video clip on X demonstrating the animatronic with the caption, "We've shared in his dream." Now we see and hear how it all began from Walt Disney. I think we have some video footage here that we can go ahead and play. I can't play audio. I was supposed to isolate some of this voice right here, but
Disney already isolated it.
Good Lord.
Yeah, we've shared in his dream. Now share his nightmare.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say it's the antithesis of Walt's dream.
This is rough right here. Also, too, Walt Disney World News Today down there getting video footage as well from some of the very first performances for invited guests. You can see that's him. Now, I believe there has been much made by the Imagineers themselves about, they advanced this technology. You have no idea the advancements. We got him to lean in certain ways. Okay. He takes a one step from the desk right there, which is actually kind of impressive. But I think all of those technical details, all of those little things that, I think very much hype. Well, I think it all kind of falls short when you don't actually buy into the trick, and it just simply doesn't look like Walt Disney. But please, guys, I am dying to hear your thoughts on this one.
My favorite tweet of the day about this was Jonas J. Campbell saying he looks like he wants pictures of Spider-Man.
That's the reason why this is out at Disneyland, because legally they can't put that in Walt Disney World, which is east of the Mississippi. No, that's a joke for anyone who doesn't understand sarcasm there. I look at this and the first thing I want to acknowledge is that the animatronic itself is a technical marvel. But like you said, Vash, it has to be in service of a great illusion. And the only illusion I see here is how this is something where people invited to the event seem to be thinking it's great. And people who are seeing it online seem to think that it's a monstrosity that is both not a fair representation and not a representation that Walt would have wanted.
Hold on. The people that were invited to the event and were gifted early access and probably given a hefty gift bag filled with pastries and merchandise liked this?
That's it. It's an amazing thing.
I'm shocked.
Yes, the people, and there have been people saying, "Oh, you got to see it in person. It looks great in person. Oh, I cried," and all these different things. And it's like,
cried. You know who cried? His granddaughter.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
literally.
very
She said when she saw it, she cried.
She said, "Don't turn Grandpa into a robot."
Yeah. So I guess the family got to see it early. And so she said when she saw it, she cried, and apparently spoke to Bob Iger himself one-on-one and made her case as to why this should not happen. And she said Bob listened to her spiel and then just gave her like a cursory, like, "I'll do everything in my power to protect your grandfather's legacy," and then still released this.
I want to highlight a couple of things about this because I think this is absolutely fascinating, the kind of differing viewpoints from the family. I wasn't able to confirm this user, but I'm pretty sure this is accurate. I'll go ahead and share it anyway, so maybe the audience can be the judge of this. This was a Instagram comment on the initial video that Disney released here. This by Don Short 28. "I'll speak up. Walt is family by marriage, as Lillian is my cousin. I imagine family will request the face be redone ASAP, as most did not want this at all. Yes, I'll go see it, and yes, I'll cry. No disrespect to those who worked so hard on this, I promise. But this is Walt Disney. It's just not okay, and he deserves better." I think.
I agree. I personally, Vash, prefer the below comment from Anna Silva 23 that says, "That's Mr. Feeney."
Yes, and you know the memes they did come a flying right there. As I was looking through comments and just trying to get like a sense of how people actually thought about this. There was one comparison that kept popping up, and well, I think I have that tweet as well right here that people can enjoy. Let's see if I can go ahead and put this on screen. There you go, right there. You know, that's, if you're not maybe familiar with Mr. Feeney, maybe you're familiar with Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy. And, well, irate specialist, you know, he's got to get on the action right there. So there you go. A modern version of a Mike Lindell hosted My Pillow guy ad with Walt Disney himself. It's just... I think when you study the figure very, very closely, I think there are aspects that they definitely got right about Walt. It's kind of interesting because I was really studying the facial lines and so forth, the laugh lines and some of the particular details, and they actually did get those right. So why does this look so off? I think that's for a few reasons. One, I think the eyebrows are maybe a little bit too bushy, especially at that time of his life. The hair actually looks very, very good. But I do think the face, and that be the eyes, the mouth, and the nose, are maybe a little bit too small on the head that they actually used, because I think they are adding so much functionality to the head itself. They just couldn't quite fit it into, I think, what was otherwise maybe a better mold. And so I think it just kind of stretched out a little bit. And I think that's what's giving us the impression that he's, puffy looking or maybe overweight and these kind of aspects that haven't traditionally been associated with Walt Disney himself. This figure looks particularly egregious from the sides. But Marvin, your thoughts?
Well, that looks like Tom Hanks, the animatronic talking figure. But yeah, it's just when you look at this and you think about his poor granddaughter, and yes, I know like his great nephew or something like that was okay with it. Maybe a couple of the other family members said that they were okay with it. But I mean, like the fact that his granddaughter pointed to the fact that his daughter was so against this and they were going to do this years ago, didn't do it because Walt's daughter was so against it, and then went back and did it after she died, is just so scummy. It's so scummy. This whole thing is scummy. Then you have like former, Imagineers and the kids of Imagineers who say that Walt himself said while he was alive that he did not want this to happen. I mean, and they have, even the partner statue, as much as everybody likes the partner statue, there's a lot of people that said Walt wouldn't have wanted the partner statue either.
And now the staple of every single park, there's some form of that statue, including the incredibly sinister one that they have at Epcot that looks like he needs a little privacy, please.
Yeah. Well, just put a magazine in his hand.
Yeah. A little privacy. Let's talk about that partner statue for just 1 second here, because I have a quote from Blaine Gibson here that I think illuminates a lot of the problems associated with this particular figure that you're seeing on screen right now. Because Blaine Gibson, the original sculptor of the partner statue, and you can see them right here with Walt Disney, sculpting the first version of Mr. Lincoln for Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. He was asked about the prospect of a Walt Disney audio animatronic, and he said this. Fascinatingly, the Jansen brothers asked Blaine in 1995, that was 30 years ago, folks, if there should ever be a audio animatronics figure of Walt, and Gibson was adamant. There are several reasons why I would be against doing that, and it isn't just because of the sacred aspect of it. I know just how crude our medium is relative to the human figure. You can't get Walt's smile. You can't program that smile that I've got on Walt's statue, that being the partner statue, and have him be able to go into all of that. You'd have to move from a scroll to a smile, because Walt at times would get a twisted up expression and one eyebrow would go up. He had a facial range that was absolutely beyond our capability. Lincoln is believable because we have no personal memories or films of his speech and mannerisms. But Walt was a man whose movements meant something, and his expressions were so lively and enthusiastic. You can't get that with an animatronic figure. The statue, to me, is of Walt during one of those moments when he'd say, let's do it this way. So, I mean, he knew 30 years ago that it's like, you shouldn't really attempt this. And I understand that there have been large leaps in audio animatronics technology, but I think the core principles of why this was a bad idea do actually show up in this version of the Walt Disney audio animatronic. It's just not expressive enough. It doesn't move as fluid enough. The ability to be believed is just simply not there.
There's also the aspect of that Walt probably would not have wanted this. He had the capability of saying yes to this while he was alive. He could have put himself in the park. He could have done an animated version of himself and put that into any number of his productions. I hear he owned an animation studio. The Uncle Walt character, no one could put words into his mouth without his say so when he was appearing on the Disneyland specials in the Wonderful World of Disney. He had complete control over what words came out of his mouth, or he would have had to sign off on it. I think it's kind of ghoulish to put Walt Disney in this way in the parks, even if it was a perfect representation. I don't think that this is something that is respectful to Walt Disney to do. In the same way that I don't think that I don't think Bob Iger would say yes to a Bob Iger animatronic in the park that he doesn't have script approval on what that thing says. This to me is the same thing with Stan Lee, and Stan Lee having passed on. They can say that Stan Lee would have loved this or would have loved that, or John Lasseter not being at the company. They don't have to worry a thing about what he says. One day they will be very glad to put words in George Lucas's mouth as well. And I have the suspicion that maybe they did that a little bit last year. I think that they want all of these prominent voices, their little narratives that they like to put origin stories out there about all of their properties. They want those people to not be able to speak for themselves. And this is a step towards making Walt into even more of a cartoon character. They're turning him into Colonel Sanders when they do things like this, which, by the way, I have seen the Colonel Sanders animatronic that Disney helped Kentucky Fried Chicken make back in the day. This is not something that makes Walt Disney into more of a real person. This turns him into an icon that can be manipulated by the company. And for those reasons, I dislike this very much.
I can't. First of all, does the animatronic's left arm always in the "I'm a little teapot" position? Because in every shot that I see, it's got the "here is my handle" position. All right, there we go. The arm's down there. Thank goodness. But I can't wait until the Muppet roller coaster comes out, and they're going to be like, "Oh, Jim Henson would have loved this," and then his terrible children will be like, "Yes, he would have." And it's just a whole mess of what they love to do. Again, they're already doing it. Like they already parrot like we like to think, what would George do? And Filoni likes to throw George's name around. So yeah, they like using these icons to their advantage. And right now, what you've got now, I don't believe that the Walt. Like he just says things that Walt actually said, right? They're not yet at the point where they're using AI to give him like his own
correct
statements.
They're doing it in a way that doesn't sound like Walt. Sound like Walt, I should say.
Yeah, so that's been one of the issues as well.
I was stopped one day when the little boy asked, "Do you draw Mickey Mouse?" And I had to admit I do not draw anymore. Well, then you think of all the jokes and ideas. No, I said, I don't do that. Finally, he looked at me and said, "Mr. Disney, just what do you do?" Well, I said, sometimes I think of myself as a little bee. I go from one area of the studio to another and gather pollen and sort of stimulate everybody. I guess that's the job I do.
There are particular moments when it really does sound like they're utilizing AI. Now, they are adamant that they are not utilizing AI, but look, you have to go by Disney's word on that. And when I hear it, it simply does not sound like that's the case. In fact, actually, for this demonstration that you're actually seeing right there, this recreation of Walt for the traveling roadshow for the 100th anniversary that started in Philadelphia, they did utilize AI heavily for that, and they might have gotten scared from using AI in that way, and a lot of the comments and commentary surrounding that whole thing. But I don't know. I just listened to some of it. It's definitely been tampered with a lot. A lot of people saying it doesn't sound like Walt. They took the grizzly factor from his voice right there away from it. It's clear that it's been manipulated, just like this whole audio animatronic is, and I don't know if it necessarily passes muster. This had to be perfect. This had to be so spot on, and they simply didn't achieve that. And I knew. When they initially delayed it from its May debut to July 17th here, I knew there were problems. I knew there were issues. And I was hearing from sources connected to Barry Place and others that, look, they were thinking about delaying this again. So I knew they were having problems associated with getting their deadline, and sure enough, I think those problems were well founded. But we're going to be talking about this.
Sorry, I was going to say, Vash, the quality of this is right in line with what I would expect from modern Imagineering. It's right up there with Tiana's Bayou Adventure. It's right up there with all of the attractions that they have made in like the last 5 to 10 years. Like it is 100% on brand for this Disney Imagineering department.
Yeah, with that Communicore Hall and everything else, right? And so when I look at just the work output for Imagineering, of today, I just go, wow, we're supposed to trust them with cars, villains, the removal of Rivers of America, destruction of Liberty Bell Riverboat, things that were, at least associated with Disneyland when Walt was alive, were just sentimental to him. I don't know. This doesn't give me a lot of hope.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.